My name is Emma, I'm 32, and I discovered my husband was having an affair with my own sister, and my parents, my own mother and father, helped them hide it. Before I tell you how a single, beautifully wrapped gift at a baby shower led to 3 divorces and the complete implosion of my family, do me a favor and let me know where you're watching from in the comments. It's comforting to know I'm not alone. Growing up in the Wilson household was a masterclass in understanding shadows. There were 2 daughters, Natalie, the son, and me, the one who lived in the ever-present shadow she cast. Natalie was 2 years older, a golden-haired, effervescent creature who could charm a statue. She wasn't malicious, not in an overt way. She was just effortlessly the center of every room, and my parents were her most devoted astronomers, their entire world revolving around her. Her report cards, decorated with cheerful B+s and smiley faces from her teachers, were given the place of honor on our refrigerator door. My straight-A reports, filled with praise for my insight and hard work, were glanced at, given a cursory "that's nice, dear," and then filed away in a drawer my mother labeled "important papers." It was as if my achievements were administrative tasks to be dealt with, while Natalie's were holidays to be celebrated. I remember our shared birthday party when I was 10. I had wanted one thing, a brand new, 10-speed bicycle. I had talked about it for months. On the day of the party, I watched as Natalie unwrapped a massive box containing that exact bike, gleaming and perfect. My gift was a set of encyclopedias. "You're the smart one, Emma," my father had said, ruffling my hair. "We knew you'd appreciate this more." I spent the rest of the party watching Natalie wobble happily down the street on my dream bike, while I learned about the agricultural output of Bolivia. This pattern repeated itself endlessly. When Natalie won Homecoming Queen, our house was the site of a block party that lasted all weekend. When I won a prestigious statewide scholarship for academic excellence, a full ride that would save my parents a fortune in college funds, they took me out for a quiet pizza. "Let's not make a huge deal out of this in front of Natalie," my mom had whispered as we sat down. "Her finals were a little rough, and we don't want her to feel bad about her grades." So I learned to swallow my successes, to make myself smaller so her light could shine brighter. I became the responsible one, the quiet one, the reliable one. The one who would always be fine. And for a long, blissful period, I truly was more than fine. Because I had Jack. Jack was my escape. We met in my final year of college, at a time when I was suffocating under the weight of my family's expectations, or lack thereof. He didn't see Natalie's little sister. He saw me. He loved my dry wit, celebrated my ambition, and found my quiet competence sexy. He was the first person to look at one of my accomplishments, a major promotion at the marketing firm where I worked, and react with pure, unadulterated pride. He'd lifted a glass of champagne and said, "To my brilliant wife, who is going to run that place one day." He saw the family dynamics for what they were, toxic and unbalanced. He was my safe harbor in a lifelong storm. For 5 years, our marriage was the one place on earth where I felt seen, valued, and cherished. I believed our foundation was granite. Then Natalie announced she was pregnant. Of course, I was happy for her. That's what a good sister, the strong one, is supposed to be. My parents, predictably, went into overdrive, organizing a celebratory dinner at their house. I walked in holding Jack's hand, the familiar knot of anxiety tightening in my gut, a feeling I thought I had left behind. The evening was a performance. I played my part, smiling and congratulating, while my parents orbited Natalie. But something was off. I started noticing little things, tiny dissonances in the family symphony. A glance between Jack and Natalie that lingered a fraction of a second too long. The casual way my mother would touch Jack's arm when she spoke to him, a gesture of ownership that felt jarringly out of place. I tried to brush it off, blaming the old insecurities that this house always managed to stir up. "This is Natalie's night," I chided myself. "Don't make it about you." Later, I went to use the upstairs bathroom. On my way back down the hall, I heard their voices drifting from the kitchen. My parents. The tone was hushed, conspiratorial. I paused at the top of the stairs, hidden by the shadows of the landing. He feels absolutely terrible about it, of course, my mother was saying, her voice a low murmur. But it was a mistake. A moment of weakness. It's over now. My blood ran cold. A mistake? Who? My father's voice, gruff and pragmatic, replied. What matters is that Natalie is happy and expecting. That's the priority. We can't let this ruin her reputation. Emma can never know. She's strong, she'll be fine. She's strong, she'll be fine. The unofficial family motto. The justification for 1,000 small cuts. My heart hammered against my ribs. A mistake. With who? Please, God, not. And then my mother delivered the final, fatal blow, the words that would detonate my entire world. I know, she sighed. Jack promised me it wouldn't happen again. We just have to make sure Emma doesn't find out about him and Natalie. Time stopped. The air in my lungs turned to glass. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. The sounds of the party downstairs, the laughter, the music, faded into a distant, mocking roar. My husband. My sister. My parents, not just witnesses but active co-conspirators, weaving a web of lies to protect their precious golden child. My marriage, my heart, my sanity, all acceptable collateral damage in the lifelong campaign to keep Natalie's world perfect. I didn't run down the stairs screaming. I didn't confront them. An eerie, terrifying calm washed over me. I turned around, walked silently back down the hall, and rejoined the party. When Jack smiled at me from across the room, I smiled back. When he said it was time to go, I took his hand. It felt like holding the hand of a stranger, a cold, lifeless thing. The war had been declared, but only one side knew it. That night, I didn't go home and fall apart. The shock was a shield, holding the pain at bay. I drove. I had no destination. I just drove until the manicured lawns of our suburban neighborhood gave way to darker, emptier roads. I finally pulled into a deserted scenic lookout, the city lights twinkling below like a galaxy of indifferent stars. And there, in the cold, sterile silence of my car, the shield shattered. It wasn't a cry. It was a howl. A raw, primal sound ripped from the deepest part of my being. I pounded my fists on the steering wheel, again and again, welcoming the sharp, grounding pain in my knuckles. Memories flooded me, a cruel, high-speed montage. Jack proposing, his eyes full of what I thought was love. Natalie, as my maid of honor, giving a speech about how she couldn't have asked for a better sister or a better man for me. My parents, beaming at my wedding. Lies. All of it. A grand, elaborate performance, and I was the only one who didn't have the script. The rage was a physical thing, a fire in my veins. But underneath it was a grief so profound I felt it might actually stop my heart. They hadn't just betrayed me. They had confirmed what I had secretly feared my entire life, that I was disposable. The next day, I made 2 calls. The first was to my office, telling them I had the flu. The second was to a therapist, a Dr. Chen, whose profile online radiated a no-nonsense intelligence. I sat on her plush sofa, a stranger in a strange room, and unspooled the whole ugly, tangled story. When I finished, my voice was a raw whisper. She didn't offer empty platitudes. She just watched me for a long moment, her gaze steady. They have spent your entire life defining your value, Emma, she said, her voice calm but firm. Now you have the truth. It's a weapon. The question is, what do you want to use it for? Do you want to use it to seek revenge, or to reclaim your life? The question hung in the air, sharp and clear. The fog of my grief and fury began to recede, coalescing into something hard and brilliant. A diamond of purpose. I looked up, and for the first time in 24 hours, my vision was perfectly clear. Why can't I do both? My transformation was immediate and total. The grieving Emma was packed away. The strategic, methodical Emma, the one who could launch a multi-million-dollar marketing campaign from scratch, took over. This wouldn't be an emotional outburst. This would be a meticulously planned, flawlessly executed operation. The investigation began in the dead of night. While Jack slept, his soft snores a rhythm of betrayal, I became a forensic accountant of our life. His laptop was the first target. I knew his usual passwords wouldn't work. He wasn't stupid. So I thought not about him, but about them. What secrets did they share? I remembered Natalie once mentioning a trip they took as kids to a place called Star Lake. I typed it in. Star Lake 98. Access granted. It was worse than I could have imagined. It wasn't a single folder. It was a labyrinth of deceit. Hidden cloud drives, archived conversations, encrypted files. It took me nights of patient, painstaking work. I found photos from a business conference Jack had supposedly attended in San Diego. There he was, on the beach, with Natalie. I found receipts for jewelry I'd never seen, for hotel rooms in our own city. It wasn't a one-time mistake. It was a long-running, parallel life. The text messages were the cruelest cut. They weren't just about logistics. They mocked me. Natalie, she's planning a surprise party for your birthday. It's almost cute. Jack, let her. We'll have our own celebration the weekend after. Somewhere she'll never know about. And the conversations with my mother confirmed her role as the willing accomplice. Mom, Emma asked why you weren't at your parents' for dinner. I told her you were helping your father with a project. You two need to be more careful. Natalie, I know. It's just hard. I wish we didn't have to hide. Mom, patience, honey. Just focus on you and the baby. We will handle Emma. She's strong. I screenshotted every message, downloaded every photo, my hands shaking not with grief anymore, but with a cold, clarifying rage. Each piece of evidence was a nail I would use to seal their coffins. I knew I needed more. I needed something they couldn't deny. I called my cousin Tyler, an IT specialist and the only person in our extended family who saw Natalie not as a son, but as a black hole. We met for coffee. I didn't need to explain much. I just turned my laptop around and showed him one photo. His face, normally so cheerful, hardened into a mask of disgust. I always knew she was a snake, he hissed. That woman is poison. What do you need, Em? Anything. I need to know what he's deleting, I said. I need to know what he's hiding now. He slid a tiny USB drive across the table. Keylogger, he said simply. Plug it into the back of his desktop. It's invisible. It will record every single keystroke. Every password, every search, every deleted message. He won't be able to hide a single thought. A week later, the perfect opportunity, the perfect stage for my final act, was delivered right to my door, gift-wrapped in my mother's oblivious voice. Emma, darling, she sang over the phone. I had the most wonderful idea. You're so brilliant at organizing things, and you have such wonderful taste. Would you do me the honor of planning and hosting Natalie's baby shower? The sheer, breathtaking audacity of it. Asking me, the wife he was cheating on, to throw a party for my sister, the mistress. It was like asking a condemned prisoner to build their own gallows. A slow, cold smile spread across my face. Oh, Mom, I said, my voice dripping with manufactured sweetness. I would be absolutely honored. I'll make it a party no one in this family will ever forget. The next month was a blur of chillingly efficient activity. I became the perfect party planner. I booked a private, sun-drenched room in an upscale restaurant downtown, a place known for its quiet elegance. I pored over details, floral arrangements, catering menus, a custom-designed cake. To fund it, I used a substantial salary bonus from a successful campaign I had recently led at work, a promotion and a financial windfall I had never mentioned to my family. They just assumed, as always, that Jack was footing the bill. The irony was delicious. My colleague Sarah was my silent co-conspirator. She watched, wide-eyed, as I transformed my grief into a project plan. In the evenings, we'd sit in my home office, which I now called my war room, and curate the evidence. We selected the 12 most irrefutable, most humiliating photos. We had them professionally printed and mounted on large foam core boards. The rest of the photos, along with the most damning text messages, were compiled into a grim, relentless slideshow. The piece de resistance was a beautiful, oversized gift box from a high-end department store. Inside, nestled in tissue paper, we placed smaller prints of the key photos. The tension in my own home was unbearable. I was a polite, smiling ghost. I could feel Jack watching me, a confused, worried look in his eyes. He knew something was wrong, but he chalked it up to stress. One evening, he found me in the war room, surrounded by swatches of pink and white fabric. "Hey," he said softly, trying to rub my shoulders. I flinched, a sharp, involuntary recoil. "You're working too hard on this. It's just a party." I wanted to be perfect for her, I said, my voice a perfect imitation of a loving sister. The lie felt like acid on my tongue. The night before the shower, disaster almost struck. I was doing a final run-through of the slideshow on my laptop. The projector was casting a giant image of Jack and Natalie, locked in an embrace, onto my office wall. I heard his keys in the front door. He was home an hour early. My heart hammered against my ribs so hard I thought it would break through. In a panic, I slammed the laptop shut, my hands slick with sweat. He walked in moments later, asking what I wanted for dinner. I managed a calm reply, my mind screaming. The universe was testing me, and I was passing. The day of the baby shower was beautiful, a perfect, sunny Saturday. I was the first to arrive at the venue, overseeing every last detail. The room was a picture of innocence, pink and white balloons, cascading floral centerpieces, soft music playing. I greeted each guest with a warm smile and a hug, playing the role of the devoted sister and hostess to perfection. Natalie arrived, glowing and radiant, the undisputed queen of the day. She was seated on a large, wicker throne-like chair I had specially rented for her. My parents hovered around her, their faces alight with pride. Jack stood nearby, looking handsome and relaxed, occasionally catching my eye to send me a grateful, loving smile. The hypocrisy was so thick I could taste it. I moved through the crowd, a silent observer of my own life's wreckage. I saw Ken, Natalie's husband, a kind, decent man who looked at his wife with pure adoration. I saw his parents, Greg and Melissa Davis, smiling and chatting with my own. I saw Olivia, Natalie's best friend, laughing as she helped stack the mountain of gifts. They were all actors in a play, and I was about to bring the curtain down. Finally, the moment came. After all the other gifts had been opened, I stepped forward and took the small microphone connected to the sound system. "If I could have everyone's attention for just a moment," I said, my voice ringing out, clear and calm. The chatter died down. "Thank you all so much for being here to celebrate my wonderful sister, Natalie. I have one final gift for her. It's something I put a great deal of thought into. Something that truly comes from the heart." All eyes were on me as I walked over to a side table and picked up the large, beautifully wrapped gift box. I carried it to Natalie and placed it in her lap. Her eyes widened at the expensive-looking wrapping. "Emma, you shouldn't have," she gushed. "Oh, it was my pleasure," I said. She carefully untied the perfect satin ribbon and lifted the lid. And then, her world stopped. The radiant smile didn't just fade, it collapsed. The color drained from her face, leaving a waxy, greenish pallor. Her hands began to shake violently as she stared at the photo on top of the pile, a crystal-clear, professionally printed 8x10 of her, naked, wrapped in my husband's arms, in my bed. Before anyone could react, before a single question could be asked, I turned to the elegant, floor-to-ceiling decorative curtains that hung behind her throne. I had rigged a simple release cord. With a single, deliberate pull, I let it go. The curtains fell away with a soft whoosh, revealing the horror behind them, my gallery of betrayal. A dozen large boards, arranged like a museum exhibit, each displaying a different, damning photo. A collective, ragged gasp sucked the air out of the room. It was followed by dead, ringing silence. I raised the microphone to my lips. For those of you wondering what you're seeing, I announced into the silence, my voice devoid of all emotion. This is my gift. These are photos of my sister and my husband. They've been having an affair for the better part of a year. An affair that my parents, standing right over there, knew all about and actively helped them hide. Because, as it has always been in this family, protecting Natalie's perfect reputation was far more important than my right to the truth about my own life and my own marriage. And then, chaos detonated. Ken, Natalie's husband, moved as if in a trance. He stumbled forward, snatched one of the photos, and stared at it. A terrible, guttural sound escaped his throat. He spun around to face his wife, his face a twisted mask of agony. "Is the baby even mine?" he roared, his voice cracking with a pain so raw it was terrifying. Natalie just sat there, paralyzed, silent tears streaming down her face. My father, his face a blotchy purple, took a step towards me. "Emma, you are hysterical. You're ruining everything over a simple mistake." That was the breaking point for Ken's father, Greg Davis. He was a quiet man, an accountant. But in that moment, he was a father defending his son's honor. He lunged past me and landed a solid, clean punch right on my father's jaw. My father went down like a sack of bricks. At the same moment, Ken's mother, Melissa, a woman who usually spent her time organizing charity bake sales, walked straight up to my mother. She didn't scream. She didn't hit. She looked her dead in the eye and said, her voice low and venomous, "You raised a snake, and you welcomed it into my son's house. The shame of this will follow your family forever." But the final, spectacular twist wasn't even mine. Olivia, Natalie's supposed best friend, was staring at one of the photos, a selfie taken in a car. Her face was ashen. She turned to her own husband, Marcus, who was standing beside her, trying to look invisible. "That's my car," she whispered, her voice trembling with dawning horror. "That's the antique compass my grandfather gave me, hanging from the rearview mirror." Ken, hearing this, his senses sharpened by rage, looked at the photo, then at Marcus's panicked face. "You," Ken snarled, pointing a shaking finger. "You were with her too, weren't you?" Cornered, panicked, and utterly stupid, Marcus cracked. "She told me you two were having problems," he yelled defensively, as if that were an excuse. "She came on to me. For all I know, the damn baby could be mine." A second mushroom cloud of betrayal rose over the room. 3 families, not 2, were now in ruins. And me? I calmly placed the microphone on a nearby table. I picked up my purse. And without a single backward glance, I walked out of the restaurant, leaving the cacophony of screaming, crying, and accusations behind me. The cool afternoon air on my face felt like the first clean breath I had taken in my entire life. The aftermath was a swift, clean amputation. I had my lawyer, a sharp, no-nonsense woman named Ms. Albright, serve Jack with the divorce papers the next day. His belongings were packed and waiting for him on the porch when he arrived. He tried to fight, to talk, to explain. I handled it all through Ms. Albright. I never spoke a single word to him again. The other divorces were messier. Ken and Olivia both filed immediately. The court-ordered paternity test, a key part of Ken's custody battle, or lack thereof, confirmed it. Marcus was the biological father. The scandal was the talk of their social circle for months. Natalie, abandoned by all 3 men and publicly disgraced, retreated to my parents' house, the fallen queen returning to her only remaining subjects. They cut me off, of course. no calls, no letters, no apologies. Their silence was the final, perfect gift. The year that followed was about excavation. I had to dig myself out from under the rubble of my old life and figure out who Emma Wilson was when she wasn't a wife, a daughter, or a sister. It was terrifying and exhilarating. I sold the house, split the proceeds with Jack, and moved into a bright, modern apartment downtown that was unapologetically mine. And I made a decision. I walked away from my corporate job. I was tired of fighting for a promotion, of trying to prove my worth to men who would never fully see it. I took my half of the house money, my savings, and my not insignificant severance package, and I invested it in myself. About a year after the baby shower, I was in a coffee shop, sketching out a business plan on a napkin, when a familiar voice said my name. It was Ken. He looked lighter. The haunted look was gone from his eyes. "Emma," he said, with a small, genuine smile. "You look good." "So do you, Ken," I replied. And it was true. We talked for a while. He was moving to Portland for a new job, a complete fresh start. Before he left, he paused. "For what it's worth," he said, his voice serious. "I know that day was hell. But thank you. In a weird way, you set me free." "You too, Ken," I said. "You too." That conversation was a turning point. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about liberation. A few weeks later, a letter with an unfamiliar return address arrived. It was from Diane Thompson, Jack's mother. I almost threw it out. But I opened it. Her handwriting was elegant, the words chosen with care. She wrote of her deep shame and sorrow for her son's actions. She didn't make a single excuse for him. The final sentence is something I have framed on my desk now. It reads, "You deserved a family who saw your light and celebrated it. Since they failed you, I hope you will go forward and build a life that reflects your own incredible worth." The validation I had craved from my own mother my entire life came from the mother of the man who broke my heart. Today, I'm standing in my new office. It's still mostly empty, just a desk, a chair, and a killer view of the city. But it's mine. I run my hand over the cool, frosted glass of the door. In clean, silver lettering, it reads, Phoenix Consulting. A little on the nose, maybe, but it feels right. I didn't just survive the fire. I was reborn in it. I didn't just get revenge. I got my life back. No, not back. I got a new one. One that is entirely, gloriously, and unapologetically my own. Thanks so much for listening to my story. It wasn't easy to share, but I hope it helps someone out there who feels overlooked or betrayed. My question for you is, have you ever had a moment in your life where you had to choose between keeping a toxic peace and blowing things up to find your own freedom? Let me know in the comments below. And if my story resonated with you, please give this video a like and subscribe for more. It really does help.